I just put on Instagram like, hey, if you have a roof, I'll show up. And I got to a point where I just bought my own mic and amp, and I was like, I'll go to you because enough people had it. But then after a while, I was like, I should just have this.
That seems like a 10-year edit. Like the editing on that must have been.
Well, everyone
brutal.
thought it was like an artistic choice to bounce around, but I was like, I'm not. There's nowhere I'm killing for an hour straight. I had to chop it up because, there'd be, tech problems. This isn't Netflix or HBO. This is like me and two friends.
Right.
This is my friend Matt and Dom who showed up with a drone cam, and that's why you get all those overhead shots. But it was crazy.
It really was cool looking, though. I mean. It seemed like it was well lit, which is something that I don't think most people even think of.
They put a lot of work into it. They brought, that's Matt and Dom, is they brought lights. They brought their own lighting. I mean, they'd get there early. And it's funny, my agent was like, this is like a gorgeous looking special. I don't know why anyone hasn't done an outdoors thing. And I was like, well, wait till you hear the first laugh. when you hear the audio, you'll be like, this is why no one does outdoor specials, because it's impossible to kill on a roof.
It really did look cool, though. Like, if you haven't seen it, it's like, the whole city, like, right behind them as a backdrop. And, it was cars moving around, but it looked really cool.
It was really because, like, I'm such a New Yorker that there was those New York is dead articles. And I was like, screw you, I'm doing a New York on rooftop specials. That was really where it came from.
And halfway through a set, you're like, all right, it's dead.
I guess. It's really true. You'd see damn, there was so many weird things that happened through those shoots. But
so hard. I mean, even Nate Bargatze did an outdoor special. It was great, but even then they had to hold for a plane in the middle of it.
Yes.
A plane goes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. He did that in Irvine, right, or something like that in California. And
Brian Regan did Red Rocks, and it was really good.
Yeah, that's right.
But Red Rocks is the thing that people did pre-pandemic, at least. These were like, no one was doing roofs before. Like this was such a weird thing to do, but
that's the comic I want to meet. The guy who was doing roofs before. Everyone took my thing.
He was probably doing more than comedy, though. Like, intermission was him taking a dump or something.
That's his closer. He's like, guys, check it out.
You can't follow that guy.
You don't want to follow that guy.
I mean, Kreischer came through and did the drive-in movie thing. He was doing that all over.
But those seemed like, Bird is such a big act that I think he was, I'm sure, making a lot of money, but those seem like a hell gig too, where you heard the first like row of cars, even the pitch. I'm like, stop right now. I never want to do anything like this ever. But then the roof thing for me was at the time the best thing available, because the other shows. I remember I was in LA and there was no shows, and then I landed in New York, and they're like, you want to do a show on the corner of 49th Street? I'm literally a crazy person. Right. We're one step removed from like people being like, "Come do my show." It's the fourth car in the D train.
right.
That's where New Yorkers. That's the mental illness of New York stand-up comedy. LA, they have like, I think Kenny DeForest tweeted something like this, where he's like, "There's so much land in LA and there's no shows." And New Yorkers, it's every block.
Yeah,
I did one in Central Park. I did one or two shows in Central Park, but they don't allow amplification, so you're just out there just yelling. I'm literally the exact same thing as like a third base coach. This is not.
Are you doing signs? If I go to the hat twice, laugh. Or just hold a Bible up, right? And you're that guy.
Or you sound like a crazy guy if you're just yelling in Central Park.
Yeah, I threw in some from my manifesto in there too, but there's a few jokes as well.
Yeah, we used to see Jewish Israelites and be like, this poor guy, and we're that guy. It was crazy. It is crazy how times change.
Well, and it's still so different, I think, right? I mean, in New York right now, it's still a lot more, COVID almost doesn't exist here anymore. It sort of feels like.
You guys, we were talking to Ted from the ComedyZone. He was saying how this is the only southern state that had to shut down.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting. New York, we're getting back there. It's who knows where things go, but the Cellar's open, the Comedy Cellar's open, the clubs are open.
It feels a lot more normal now.
Yeah, I think it's all right.
Are they? So do you guys still? Are people having to show like a Vax card or
I think
proof of whatever?
We worked. I don't think we don't, but I think they want the comics vaccinated,
because I don't think they. It was funny when Chris Rock was in town, they did that. But I think normally they don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like, oh well, the guy from New York's in town. We're going to do that.
And if you need one of those cards, just talk to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have just a host of them
up.
But even then, like there was like a 17-year-old who works at Chick-fil-A on the side, like just with a flashlight. Like he's not qualified to identify all of these.
He doesn't know what a fake vax card is.
Right. He doesn't know what a real one.
That is a weird level of like fake ID. You're like, yo, I got fake vax cards. That's kind of a scuzzy guy.
That's one trip to Kinko's. It's not really the most difficult thing to fake. Not saying you should, but that's.
But yeah, we in New York, I guess the seller and all the clubs are checking your vax cards, and I there's a lot of in big cities that you're so much. It's different than living out here or living in place. I mean, Charlotte's a big city, but like. You go to like Asheville or Wilmington, it's a different vibe.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely
if you go over to South Carolina, like the Skinner cover bands never stop playing shows. They just never really slow down.
Which one?
Ooh, That Smell is my favorite.
So let me ask your opinion, because I saw you tweeted about this last night, and we just had the discussion on the radio yesterday about the whole Alec Baldwin thing.
Yeah.
And then they did that special last
rough,
night, and I
right?
saw what you tweeted, like, yeah, it's a bad thing for everybody, but they called it a special event.
I know.
It's just, I mean, does
It's
it?
his best performance since Glengarry.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
He was workshopping it at the clubs in New York, actually. He was going around.
That was
See,
part
this
of
is
the
what I
discussion
was
we
saying.
had.
But I got pushback from these guys, like, no, I think he really just wants to tell his story. I'm like, this is a whole,
Well,
this-
he wants to tell the story, but like it's hard to separate. Like this is when you realize that actors, the only things they can act as is a human. Like that's the hard role for Alec Baldwin. Can do 30 Rock, he can do Glengarry Glen Ross, he could do like anything. But then once you see him try to be a person, you're like, that's just Jack Donaghy right there.
Right, which is amazing. It's exactly the same. So you don't know which one is him.
That's
Is
when
he
it's good to
Jack
be-
Donaghy, or is right?
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, he's that story was, I mean, completely insane. Like, how do you, I mean, the thing people were talking about, he's like, well, the gun's not in my hand. I'm like, yeah, but you're still an executive producer. Like, this is still your fault. Even if you didn't fire the gun, cutting corners, it's still your fault. So, yeah, I mean, I just assume he's, who would have thought we'd all rather be Billy Baldwin at this point? I don't know. I mean, this is crazy. It's a crazy story, man. I've never seen it. Obviously, anything. I mean, since Bruce Lee's son, but I was a kid then, and I mean, yeah, she's a mother. It was terrible.
No, I mean, obviously, like you said, there's no good side of it. It's not, but it is awesome when you can take a story like that and then put the twist on it, and because everybody's like wants to see something lighthearted about everything, right? That's the way you make the world feel better.
It's too bad that she wasn't a child molester, because that was Kyle Rittenhouse's excuse, right? Everyone, when he killed someone, everyone's like, "Oh, you like pedophiles?" And you're like, "No." Like, well, he killed a pedophile, so
right.
And you're like, "Yeah, but he didn't plan to." It's not like he picked up the phone. There's a pedophile in Kenosha. He's like, "I'm on it."
What if Alec Baldwin goes in the special and he's like, listen, this movie was not going to be that good. I really spared you all.
Well, that's the thing. JP was saying last night, he's got to still plug the movie, probably. Which is like,
I didn't think about it.
Only in theaters February 5th.
I mean, do they finish filming? Do they change from guns to knives? What's the move?
Right. That's a good point, right? He just couldn't get out of his contract, so he decided to kill the cinematographer.
It is weird how many Westerns have been made and like this, like you think about that, but then you heard George Clooney said something like, he's like, well, I always check a gun before. And you're like, well, you sound like in the minority. I bet most actors are like, wait, what? Actors don't know how to use guns.
Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
It is weird, the fascination, like Hollywood is so liberal, but then there is a fascination with guns.
Right.
Which is kind of weird. Like the same people who are like, no one should ever have a gun. They're like, have you seen the new John Wick movie? It's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
There's 400 people killed in the first 7 minutes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but I don't know.
What a pitch by the agent to be like, listen, you still got to do press. This movie's not coming out. It's like,
It's in the contract. You signed it.
I'd like to disappear to the jungles of Costa Rica, actually, right now. It's like, nah, you got to talk to George Stephanopoulos.
They shot it like a movie trailer too. That promo, it's like very tasteless. I mean,
Dramatic music.
and they don't do it's George Stephanopoulos like, what were you thinking? And then it just cuts to him like crying. You're like, hey, we want to know I guess I got to watch. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see it now.
Streaming now on Hulu, by the way. Yeah. They the clip that I did, they didn't
Right
use
after Only Murders in the Building.
Right. Yeah. They bundle it together. He asked him, "Do you feel guilty?" And he was just like, "Nope."
Really? He said no?
Yes, and
Right
it was
away.
just point blank like that.
No.
Yes, it
That's-
was.
That must have been edited. There's no way. That's even if that's not true.
He did go on to
even
sort
that's
of
true.
further explain, but he right off the bat was like, "No, I mean, I don't know how edited it was, but that's the way
God,
he answered."
if he doesn't feel guilty, that's like. I mean, I guess legally maybe he can't say that.
That's got to be it.
yeah.
He's like just trying to stay out of jail.
So, like when you say you're sorry, it's almost like admitting guilt. So, if he feels guilty,
Then you're responsible.
Yeah, he's got to dance around and be like, there is guilt there. Yes.
Right.
But
It's like almost like when your girlfriend is like, "Do you feel guilty?" and you're like, "Here's why I don't." Like, you have to be like, yeah, you got to maneuver it.
Right.
I was thinking about you at the time, right? Is that what you said?
Well, you can't just blurt out no. There's got to be a better way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's weird because this is like such a gift for the Republicans because they already hated Alec Baldwin for
Yeah.
playing Trump on SNL. They already he's like very
Very
liberal
liberal.
activist.
Right.
So this was like a gift for. But then you see like Don Jr. and you're like, well, you're terrible. Like you're a terrible. Like he was selling shirts about it, right?
Like the day after.
Like you're
Shirts.
profiting on merch over the murder. Like that's almost worse than the murder. You're
How did I
trying to-
not see that? Well, he was selling shirts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did they say?
Alec Baldwin killed more people than I forget it.
Oh.
Like, something like that. It
You're
was
like, "You're
super
disgusting."
tasteless.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it was really clever. Whatever.
I mean, Don Jr. is Kendall Roy from Succession.
Yeah.
I was going to say he was one of my top 5, but I said no.
Oh, yeah.
Just
we don't-
behind
We don't need to
EJP.
talk to my dad about the shirts. We can do this.
So I do think it's fascinating with you and Mark Norman doing the We Might Be Drunk podcast that now he's going to be in Charlotte next week. Is this
know.
planned? Are you guys like,
No, of course not.
are you
No,
the
it's-
front man? You travel to clear the room or?
No, it's weird. Like it's probably bad for both of us that like maybe people don't want to go to shows back to back weeks. It's probably not a smart move, but no, this is a cool club. I've never played it.
Well, they redid it, so it is a little bit better than it was even. There used to be some
Well, they didn't
Does
have,
look
sound,
nice.
like acoustics complaints and those
they
sorts
didn't
of
have
things.
carpet on the floor, so anytime somebody had to get up or do something, you just heard this awful scraping sound.
No
It-
high heels allowed.
Right.
Sounds like river dancing.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I guess it has gotten even better that way. So, well, how was it last night? How did that
Killer.
work?
They were great.
Yeah.
Great crowds.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're good. Good people, man. I'm into it. This is I've been lucky. Most cities have been awesome on this. I really haven't stopped since April, and most cities have been great. St. Louis was rough, but
I was going to ask who was terrible. So
no, the crowds were great, but it was just not a great weekend. But yeah, no, everyone's been pretty cool.
Do you like in these shows, will you intentionally do a little crowd stuff? Is that a typical
Sure.
part of it?
Yeah, it's boredom. It's not boredom with the crowd. It's like boredom with my own material. So it's hard not to do that stuff just because if you see an opening, it's hard not to take it just out of curiosity.
It's funny. We tend to go to a lot of comedy shows, but I have a couple of friends who don't really go to many shows, and two different people said, "Oh, I don't want to go to a comedy show because they'll make fun of me." And I said, "That's really what you think is going to happen at a comedy show?"
I get
two
that.
different people tell
can
me
get
that.
that with me. I get people will say that, but at the same time, I usually don't do it unless they kind of instigate it.
Right.
So
Yeah, we're like bees. I mean, like if you don't bother us, we won't bother you.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I was blown away that grown people were like, "Oh no."
well, people don't. It's funny, I remember. I saw an old guy once being like, "I don't want to sit in the front; they'll make fun of me." And the manager was like, "No, they won't." And then he sat in the front, and the host opened and was like, "Look at this old dude." So it does happen. but
you said you have to do something other than just sit there and be old, right? Okay.
Usually, I
Usually.
think. I mean, I
Don't cross your arms
Unless
at
you're-
a comedy show. If you have your arms crossed at a comedy show, you're
Okay.
asking for it.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
my one
List.
piece of advice.
Huh. I just want to like, is that common? But I mean, you guys would know better than me.
There's a non-zero chance you're going to get made fun of, but it's more than likely that the audience member brings it on. But sometimes we'll ask questions of people in the audience and get a little banter going, and like you might get lightly ribbed.
And it's never malicious, though.
Yeah.
It's never,
I mean,
it's never that bad.
No, I don't think so either. I can't imagine it. All right, well, we'll let you guys do your thing, man. I really appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks for having
and I'm,
us.
Glad you were able to stop by, and I'm hoping to come to the show tonight too. So
Awesome.
you can go. The website for them is cltcomedyzone.com to get tickets, and it's 2 shows tonight and 2 shows.
One letter off one of my favorite things.
Right. It's funny. Anytime a comic comes to Charlotte, they're always like, man, I love the abbreviation. Like literally every comic is like, your city is a clit, right?
You can get it on a hat.
They're sensitive about that. Be careful.
Most people can't find it.
I get it. All right. Well, cool, man. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. Oh, thanks. Thanks for having us.
No, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, hopefully this movie.